For a family, nothing is more important than keeping their children safe. However, it is no secret that the world is a wicked place, where loss can strike at any moment. We must always be vigilant in order to keep our loved ones safe, especially our children. While there are many stories that had a happy ending where the lost ended up being found, today we're going to take a look at a few accounts where children have mysteriously gone missing, not to be found. As always, if you enjoy our content, make sure you like the video and subscribe to our channel. If you don't want to miss out on a single video, make sure to press that bell notification button and turn on notifications for the YouTube app on your mobile device. Without any further ado, let us dive into our first account. May 19th, 1971 marked the day that the world last saw Cheryl Miller and Pamela Jackson. The two girls were making their way to a party when they mysteriously disappeared. A case was opened 40 years ago by the police, but not a single solid lead was found for a long time. At least until 2013, when the police managed to solve the case. You see, Cheryl Miller and Pamela Jackson have been looking forward for the end of the school year. The two girls weren't the kind to drink or use drugs, and they usually didn't attend parties on the weekends either. However, on the night of the end of the school year, they heard a party that was happening at a local quarry, and they decided that it would be fun to attend. The girls made plans to meet up with some guys from the school, and made an arrangement to follow them along the road that led to the quarry. Cheryl and Pamela were traveling in Cheryl's grandmother's car, a 1960 Studebaker Lark. As they were making their way, the boys accidentally made a wrong turn. By the time they found the right track and fixed their path, they saw that the girls were no longer driving behind them. Since the girls were not usually the type to party, the boys thought that they had changed their mind and turned back to head for home. Little did the boys know that they were the last people to see Cheryl and Pamela alive. When the people of the town were alerted of the disappearance by the family, the police got together with family members and other volunteers as they launched a search party that lasted for weeks. They were desperately trying to find some sign of the girls or the car that they were driving. However, it had seemed like they had vanished without a trace, as they eventually had to stop. 4 decades had passed when a fisherman at Brule Creek noticed a rundown Studebaker lying upside down in the water. Perturbed, he quickly called the authorities as they managed to finally solve the mystery that had haunted them for 43 years. The car contained the two bodies of Cheryl Miller and Pamela Jackson that the officials wasted no time identifying. The authorities found Cheryl's purse, which was in good condition, even though it had been submerged in the creek for the last 40 years or so. Inside, the officers found Cheryl's driver's license intact. The license plate was also used to confirm the ownership of the car, and the owner turned out to be none other than Cheryl's grandmother. A lot of people questioned how the car had gone unnoticed for so long by so many people in the creek. However, regardless of popular belief, it is not that unusual. In the days of old, it was commonplace to submerge vehicles or farming equipment by the banks of the creek in order to combat erosion. Because of this, sunken cars aren't really a sign that immediately throws a red flag on the minds of people. There is also a chance that when the accident first took place, the car may have not been visible. However, in September 2013, the water levels at Brule Creek were lowered due to a drought. This could have been the reason as to why the car's tires were visible when the fisherman was in the vicinity. Police investigations did not find any signs of foul play. The general belief was that the girls got in an accident that caused them to drive off the road into the creek. One of the tires had low thread, and police took this as a sign to speculate that a blown or flat tire might have been the reason for the girls to swerve off the road. It also could have been a case of poor visibility due to the dark and with the dust that usually kicks up from the car in front of them. There was also a chance that they missed a curve on the road as well. Even through all the hardships, Pamela Jackson's father never gave up looking for his missing daughter. He always took the time to drive along the rural roads by the quarry, putting in his own effort to find the missing Studebaker. However, Pamela's father died in the year 2013, just 5 days before the discovery of the car. This was the story of Cheryl Miller and Pamela Jackson. Quite tragic, isn't it? Let us move on to our next story of the day, surrounding a little boy by the name of Etan Patz. 6-year-old Etan Patz was walking to the school bus stop alone for the first time on one fateful day in May 1979. However, that day was an unfortunate one, as Etan found himself being abducted on the way there. The abductor was none other than 18-year-old Pedro Hernandez. He lured the boy into the convenience store that he worked at near Etan's house in Manhattan by promising him a soda. When Etan naively followed the clerk and entered the shop, the clerk choked the boy and put his body out with the trash. Etan's case was a special one, as there was a nationwide appeal for information. The situation turned so high profile that Etan ended up being the first missing child to be featured in milk cartons in the US. However, his disappearance was unsolved for decades. Since it was such a high-profile case, it also contributed to an era of fear where American families were rather reluctant to allow their children to go outside unsupervised. The fate that Etan went through was something that no parent wishes for their children. After all, even after nationwide searching, Etan's body was never found by the authorities, and he was legally declared dead by 2001. However, the case made a breakthrough as April 2017 came around. Hernandez was found to be the kidnapper and murderer of Etan Patz by the court of law. Etan's parents watched as Hernandez was sentenced to at least 25 years in prison for the kidnapping and murdering of their son. Truly a tragic truth for any parent to live through. However, in the end, justice was served. The next story that we're about to cover is more in the mysterious side of things. Let us take a look at the story of Ben Needham. One day, Ben was playing outside of his grandparents' house on the Greek island of Kos on a fateful day in July 1991. However, things took a turn when his parents waited for Ben to return home and found out that he had gone missing. Multiple repeated searches and investigations immediately followed suit after the 21-month-old Ben's disappearance, but no sign of Ben had ever been found in all those occasions. 4 years back, detectives from the South Yorkshire Police had performed a 3-week dig for clues around the farmhouse where Ben was last seen. However, it was to no avail, as no sign of Ben was found. There had been a digger driver clearing land close to where Ben was playing on the day that he disappeared, and a theory that the officers came up suggested that Ben may have been run over by accident. However, no official reason as to why Ben disappeared had been found as of yet. The driver of said digger, named Konstantinos Barkas, had died from stomach cancer in the year 2015. Over the years, a number of young men had come forward to the Needham family, believing that they may have been the Ben Needham that disappeared all those years ago. However, DNA tests have ruled all those that came forth out. Let us dive into the final story of the video. This last story is centralized around a young girl who was abducted, as she managed to escape the grasp of her abductor and live. This story is about Cara Robinson Chamberlain. The year was 2002. A 15-year-old Cara was watering some plants in her front yard when a man drove up by the yard and asked her to come closer. He said that he wanted to give her a brochure. However, when she got close to the car, he immediately put a gun to her neck and forced her inside his trunk. Chamberlain was stuck inside a container in his trunk for a long time until he drove her all the way to his apartment. What came next is not for the faint of heart. The kidnapper repeatedly sexually assaulted her while she was trapped in his apartment. After 18 hours had passed, Kara managed to escape the apartment by waiting for the kidnapper to fall asleep. As she wriggled out of her restraints, she bolted out of the front door as she went all the way to the main road and flagged someone down to help her. She was lucky enough to escape, but she did not know exactly how lucky she was to survive. The man who kidnapped Kara turned out to be Richard Ivantes, who was later connected to 3 separate murders, making him a serial killer. When police managed to finally corner him in 2002, Richard ended up shooting himself. Ever since then, Kara had now grown up, and she has been using her experience to help others. Her passion can clearly be seen on her website, where she writes, "I currently use my traumatic experience, as well as my years of work in law enforcement, to speak to groups around the country. I tell my story, help to educate those who work with victims, and empower individuals to be the best version of themselves they can be, regardless of their past." We've finally reached the end of the video. Make sure to like and subscribe if you want to see more accounts of situations that happened in real life. Also, remember to hit that bell notification button in order to never miss out on our uploads. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.